All right. I'm here with Joe Cavallaro. Joe, what's going on, man? Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. So to start, talk a little bit about like your beginnings in basketball. Like when did you first start getting into basketball as like a player and as a fan?
Yeah, I mean, my life has been, all basketball all the time, and I think I from an early age, like I was, thrown into it. Like my dad just made me and all my siblings play sports growing up, and at the moment, I was playing like a million different sports, and I was like, this is kind of insane, but I understand the process now of what he was trying to do, and I definitely fell in love with basketball. I mean, by like ninth grade, I think I was coaching like my little brother's intramural basketball team, and I was it throughout high school. I would coach, I would play, I was a ref, I did scoreboards. Like I was just like around the game a ton, and just kind of fell in love with coaching when I realized, I'm a 6 foot kid from Long Island. I'm probably not going to the NBA
Yeah.
or playing D1, but like I just wanted to be around the game as much as possible. And yeah, I just kind of fell in love with coaching from, honestly from working with my brother. He was probably the reason, why I loved it so much from that point. It was from working with my brother, and from that, like I ended up, coaching. We went from an intramural team to coaching a CYO team to coaching an AAU team, and then, being in or when we were in college, actually, I was an assistant coach my junior and senior year for a high school on Long Island. So like throughout the winter, I would be like back and forth. I was working with the men's team at St. John's as well. And I would be going back and forth from like basketball to basketball to basketball. And like I never like burned out of it. Like I always like thoroughly enjoyed it the entire time. And yeah, I mean, it was just like I did a lot of different things with the game, and it's just, basketball is a really cool thing where, you can use it to take you pretty cool places and do pretty cool things and be around pretty cool people. And I was just very happy to, work with people and be around the game that I loved so much.
I love that all basketball all the time. I could definitely relate to that. So from like your teenage years, you knew you wanted to coach as like something you did after college and like as a profession.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, from like ninth grade, basically. I think honestly it was earlier than that when I coached. Like my little brother, he's 5 years younger than me, and yeah, when he was in second grade, it was the first year where in my town they have like a basketball league, and I was in seventh grade. Had no idea. I think about it all the time. I had no idea what I was doing back then. I was literally, I loved playing basketball when I was younger, and I was like, all right, like I want to, if my brother's gonna play, I want to make sure that I'm coaching and making sure that he's having a good experience, just like I had. And I kind of fell in love with the whole process of everything of working with the kids, taking someone, helping someone get from point A to point B. That kind of thing is really cool to me. And I mean, back then it was literally like a second grade intramural team. The final score of our games was probably like 8-4. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't,
Travel every possession.
literally like the refs are just like literally the same age as me, just standing there like looking at the wall. Like it was, it wasn't like a high level of anything, but I that kind of planted the seed where I was like, all right, this is actually something that's pretty cool and something that I want to do because I think I kind of realized early on, like I said, that I wasn't, my playing career is not that I wasn't terrible, but my playing career wasn't going to be anything more than high school basketball.
So you talked about working with the men's team at St. John's. So obviously you were a manager while we were at St. John's. So talk a little bit about your experience of being a manager and like what like talk about like some of your duties and like what you learned stuff like that.
Yeah, well, at St. John's, we had a lot of managers too. Like we had like 15 to 20 managers every year that I did it. And I think everybody kind of brought their different, strengths to the table. There was a lot of guys who were, doing film, a lot of guys who were helping out the guys with, whatever they needed. A lot of us would, I remember at the beginning of the years, we used to help the guys like move into their off campus dorms, which was, I thought was funny. But I think I kind of found my strength as being someone who could like, be on the court with the guys a little bit. And like, I think during practice, that was really where I I did the most stuff, as far as just like being out there with the pad and just like being next to like these like super athletic dudes who were, there for one job, and that was to win basketball games. And I learned so much from, Coach Greg St. Jean was an awesome, skills development guy, and I learned a lot about training from him, which is something else that I did a lot of during COVID. I would do a lot of training, and just being around those guys and being around those coaches was pretty cool. Greg St. Jean was a master coach, and I learned every single day. I feel like I was learning something different from him, whether it was like X's and O's or individual skill stuff. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of managers. I don't think people realize how many managers there were from a year to year basis. Like there was a lot of us. It was like a little army. There was more managers than there were players out there. It was crazy.
So you mentioned Greg St. Jean. So like people like in the basketball world and realm know how like high level of a coach he is and how like highly spoken of he is. He's like he won a championship with the Lakers on their staff, coach for the Mavs, coach for the Suns, probably gonna be an NBA head coach pretty soon. So nice to hear you speaking highly of him. Did you like learn things while working at St. John's that you can now apply to coaching like at the high school level? Obviously it's like such different level guys, but do you think there are things that you can apply to high school?
Yeah, I mean, I run Coach St. Jean's shell defense drill every single day with my varsity guys, like every single day, and I use the exact same terminology that he does. He had such a good vocab for the game too, which is another thing that I learned a lot from him. But yeah, I mean, like some of the X's and O's offensively, I don't think really translate a ton to the level that I'm coaching at right now. But I mean, it's still stuff that like I learned because of him, and I know, and it's there's variations of stuff. I mean, as a coach too, like not everybody copies from each other. Like no,
Yeah.
there's really it's hard to come up with an original idea when it comes to coaching. Like I think the best coaches like steal other ideas and like kind of put their own twist on it and put a twist on it that kind of suits what they have in the personnel that they're working with. But just like the flows and the actions of that kind of stuff, I think that stuff was important. But like defensively, like the 4-on-4 shell defense drill that Coach Greg did every single day, I do every single day as well. And his closeout drill, like a lot of defensive stuff, I think that part of the game translates more to what I'm coaching right now than some of the offensive stuff. Just because I don't have 6'10" bigs who are soaring through the air dunking on people,
Yeah.
but I have some guys who can definitely compete and can definitely play at a pretty high level. And I think that having that vocab that I learned from Coach Greg, like it translates to the level that I'm at though, for sure.
So coming out of St. John's, did you ever think about like pursuing a GA spot anywhere, or were you like ready to get into the Long Island high school scene right out of college?
Yeah, I definitely thought about it, and I can't lie, I'm still thinking about it too. I mean, I'm 27 right now, so I'm not getting any younger, but I'm also not a coach in my 30s, so
Yeah,
I definitely thought about it, and I still do think about it now, like making that jump at some point, just because my ultimate goal has always been to coach at the college level. I mean, any division or level at college is like impressive to me, and like I think people have like this weird connotation about like if you don't go D1, it doesn't like that doesn't make any sense to me. Like I've
no,
seen
not at all.
I've seen D2 hoopers and D3 hoopers who would give you buckets on any day. Like it is a very, very high level of basketball. So I've worked around a couple D3 coaches as well. Coach Mike McSloy is someone from Long Island who's at Ithaca right now. I worked with him for a little while. He was a phenomenal coach. Coach Heenan is another coach I've worked with before. Um, he's at the D3 level. He's at St. Joe's. There's a bunch of coaches too, like a lot of coaches from the AAU organization I've worked for at Empire, have a lot of connections and have coached high level basketball as well. So I look at them and not that I'm jealous, but I'm like that's a place where I could see myself being and being successful one day.
Yeah, so I had another guest on earlier. His name is Dylan Hod, and he played Division 3, and he like brought up a good point that really stuck with me. He said like chase the fit, not the level, which like kind of goes back to what you said about like the playing like it's Division 1 or bust for some guys, which doesn't really make any sense because there's super high Division 3, Division 2 level basketball. Like I don't know how close you are to like Farmingdale, but I remember a few years ago Farmingdale they went like 28-3 and made it to like the third round of the NCAA tournament with like super high level guys. Um, but I don't think people realize how good college basketball is at every level.
Yeah, they don't understand. And it's like disrespectful the way that people talk about Division 3. Like it doesn't
Yeah,
make any sense. And like to be honest, like there are a lot of dudes who are playing D3 right now who could and maybe should be at a Division 1 school. Like it's, you never know what you're gonna get, and it's
Yeah.
like it's a very high level of basketball at the D3 level.
So talk about like how you got involved with coaching high school. Obviously you talked about like doing it while you were still in college. Are you still coaching at the same high school that you did when you were when in college?
No, not the same one that I was at when I was in college, but my first year out of college, I just wanted to coach at a school somewhere. So I went back to the school that, that I was from and that I went to school at. And, I applied for a coaching job there and I ended up getting the JV job there. I did that for a year. And then the next year, me and the varsity coach, we really got along very well. And I think we coached very well together. And then the next year, I ended up being his assistant. And then the year after that, I ended up taking over and being the head coach after that. So it honestly kind of happened pretty quickly. Like I wasn't, I don't know if I was, or I don't really know what I was expecting, going into it being a JV coach. Like I didn't really expect to be a head varsity coach after like 3 years, but you know, once you start, well, I mean, being from that district too, I did all the camps, like all the summer camps growing up. So like I knew all the kids, and I think that was a big selling point for me when I got the job was, you know, and it's actually, believe it or not, it's the seniors that I have right now are like the kids that I'm really thinking about because I've been around them since they were like literally in third or fourth grade. Like I've known them for a very long time, and I've coached them in summer camps and all this other stuff. So I think just being around them and knowing the guys, like it's hard to step away from a group of guys like that when
Yeah.
you've been around them for so long and like you become like this like pretty quickly. It's like, even if I wanted to make a move, like I just feel like right now I couldn't leave these guys. Like they're like literally like my little brothers at this point. And I just want to make sure I see them out the right way.
So you took over the program at like 25 years old.
Yeah, I think it's 24 or 25.
So that's like super rare. Was there ever any like pushback or anything with being such a young coach? Like, was
I
there
think a
anyone
little bit.
else like gunning for the job or anything or anybody? I mean, I'm sure people were always talking, but I mean, did you ever get any pushback?
Yeah, I think there was. I think there was a little bit of like this guy's really young. Like, is he really going to come in and take over this program? But I think just kind of going along with like knowing the kids and knowing the families and stuff. I think I had a little bit of like, people kind of knew me a little bit and they knew that, I was a basketball guy and, I think they respected how much I love basketball and they kind of trusted me a little bit, but if I've learned one thing from 3 years of doing this, it's you're never going to make everybody happy. Like
Yeah.
it's a 0% chance. Like I thought I could come in and, be like, all right, here we go. Like this is what we're all going to do, guys, like together. It's just not possible. Like you just can't make everybody happy. So being the head coach, like the only thing that you need to make sure you do is do right by the program. And as long as you're doing right by the program, the people who are meant to rise up will rise up. And, the people who don't see what you're doing or don't appreciate what you're doing, it is what it is, but that just it comes with the territory.
Yeah, that's one of like the toughest aspects of coaching is like obviously you're not going to make everybody happy. Everybody's always going to have a problem, but not that it should ever be about you because whenever you're making it about yourself over like you said the program or the kids, then you're in it for the wrong reason. But like
Hmm.
it's like if you guys are winning and playing well, it's probably because at least from an outsider's perspective, it's going to be like oh you got good players, the kids are good. If you're losing, it's never the players. It's always like oh the coach sucks, which is
Yep,
tough. But I mean you
every
can't try
time.
to
And
please everybody.
and it's true though, like I mean, I don't think I appreciated it as much when I started, but like you got to have the horses. Like if you don't have the horses to to win the race, like
Yeah,
it's there's only so much you can't put the ball in the hoop for the kids when you're on the sideline, and
yeah.
you got to have the horses to win the race.
Did you ever struggle, or do you ever struggle with, like, as a young coach, like gaining respect from the kids? Like, obviously, you love basketball and work super hard, so I'm sure they could see that and gain respect from that. But just being so close in age is like it's something definitely that I see. Like, is it hard to gain the respect from the kids?
I mean, I think in some ways it is. Um, but in some ways it almost helps being younger because I mean, I wasn't their age too long ago. I kind of
You can
know
relate
how
to
their
them.
brains, yeah, like I can relate to them and I kind of know what they're thinking before they even realize they're thinking it because I was in their shoes a while ago. But like I just think the biggest thing is like you got to build relationships, and if you show them how much you care about them, they'll start to care a little bit more about what you're trying to do. And I think like someone that I've worked with has always said the kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and I think that that's like pretty spot on. Like they every single dude that I've ever coached, like they know how much I love them and they know how much I would fight to help them with whatever they need on or off the court. And I think that just kind of builds, a coach player relationship, but also like I could be an older brother if they needed help with whatever, and I was always looking out for them. And I think that kids can pick up on that. Like they can smell BS from a mile away. Like they know when you're not being genuine or being sincere or you're in it for the wrong reasons. So just trying to do things the right way and build valuable relationships to where I have kids that played for me 2 years ago that are sophomores in college. I text them every week. I literally before they left for school I literally went and got pizza with like a whole bunch of them. Like I still have that relationship with them off the court as well, which I think all the younger kids kind of can see as well, and pick up on that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, 100%. I love that, dude. I think that being younger and being able to relate to the kids on like a different level, because like obviously there's great coaches that have been coaching for 30 years that are a little bit older, and like you can have a relationship with them, but like it is a little bit different being like a high school kid and a high school player playing underneath like a 60, 65-year-old coach as opposed to 25, 26-year-old coach. Um,
Yeah.
so I agree with a lot of stuff you said. So more on like not so much like you kind of were just getting into it, but not so much like X's and O's stuff, but like talk a little bit about like your philosophy in building culture and building a bit about some of your philosophies in building culture and just like building a program in general beyond like X's and O's.
Yeah, I mean, it's all my biggest thing is like I love practice, and I think that's where you really build the culture because like you can't really fake it when you're in practice. You're either
Yeah.
like all in or you're not. Um, and I just try to create an environment where dudes are trying to push each other, trying to get each other better. I always use the phrase put one drop in the bucket every day, and then you look back on it after a month and it's pretty full. And you're not going to make any huge strides overnight, but if you just come in every single day with an effort to get better, I think that goes a long way, and that's a winning culture. Is a bunch of guys who are just trying to get better every single day, and it doesn't matter how good you are or how good you think you are. Knowing that like there's room for improvement no matter what, and if I'm trying to get myself better, the person next to me is going to try to get himself better. And if he's not trying to get himself better, I'm going to go after him until he starts to try to get himself better. So creating that environment of like competitiveness, but having everybody be, having some humility in what they're doing. I think that's a winning culture.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Like the whole idea of making practice hard so that the games are easier is definitely something that I agree with. Um, How do you like as a from like a coaching perspective? How do you get kids to buy into like the team over individual? Obviously, it's kind of like a hard question to answer. But I feel like once you get to like the college level, it's a little bit easier. Obviously, guys are always gonna have egos and stuff like that. But like Division 1 level, it's like your job almost. So like when you're in high school and you don't really understand sacrificing your own personal stuff for the greater good of the team, how do you kind of get that message across to kids?
That's a really good question, and I don't even know if there is like a concrete answer to it, but you know I think a lot of it comes down to the guys you have and like the character that they have. Um, and from my experience, if your best guys have that mentality, it trickles down to everybody else. But if your best guys are individual guys, that also trickles down to everybody else. So I think you just got to continue to preach the right things every single day. And you never know when, where, or how it's going to get through to them. But if you're preaching consistently that those kind of messages of we greater than me kind of stuff. Um, I think eventually you get through to them to an extent, but I think a lot of it falls on the player. Like, it's a lot of them either want it or they don't. And, if they don't want it, it's they have to understand how it's affecting the people around them. And, some kids just don't have the maturity to do that, I think.
Yeah.
It's not like they don't understand the benefits of being that way. It's just they aren't capable of doing it. And we're in an era now with social media where everyone's like, "Oh, where's he going to school? Oh, where's he going to school?" Like a lot of them are like looking for some kind of attention or some kind of validation in that way, where they don't understand like the best validation you could have is being a winner. Like that's it. Like if you're a winner, someone's gonna find you and someone's gonna come get you. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's a really, really good question. I don't know if there is like a concrete answer to,
Yeah.
how do you get a kid to stop being so much about himself and start being about the team? I think it's just the culture and the environment that you set up. And if you have them at a young age and you teach them from a young age that this is the right way to do things, I think it's easier. But stepping into a team and stepping into a program that you just have these seniors who you know are doing whatever, it's I don't know if a kid can learn that in 1 year. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
That's like the battle of coaching. Do you coach
hmm
AAU as well?
I have up until last year was my first year. I didn't, so I had coached AAU from like my senior year of high school all the way until like last year when I was 26.
What are some of like the differences you see in AAU basketball compared to like high school varsity basketball? And like, do you have any thoughts about like the current AAU culture?
Yeah, I mean, it has its pros and its cons, I think just playing for kids is just like, playing year round is an amazing thing. I think there's definitely a huge need for AAU. Um, but at the end of the day, AAU is a business, it's not the same thing as a school team where you're trying to win. There's other goals that go into being an AAU program. I'm lucky that I was able to work with Empire, which is the organization from Huntington and all over the North Shore. And they really did things the right way. They really genuinely cared about the kids that they were coaching. Um, but at the end of the day, it is business, and you need to continue to make money. And Empire never let money get in the way of doing the right thing. But I think a lot of programs out there are more concerned about making enough money rather than doing things the right way for the kids. Um, and that's just the way that it is. I think a lot of club and outside league sports kind of go that way. Um, but it is different. And one of the things that I would get really frustrated with is it's so hard to coach a team when you're working with them for like an hour and a half a week, and then like you're playing 4 games over the weekend. Like I always talk about the European model and how it's the opposite way. They practice 4 times a week to play once. Like that's more of like it's way better and easier to build something when you're practicing more and playing less. And obviously playing games is important. Don't get me wrong. Like you need to play games, you need to get that game experience. You need to play to build your IQ and your feel for the game. But, as a coach, like it's hard to practice an hour and a half a week, and then little Johnny's sick, so he's not even there, and now the next day I have to go back. And it's just like it's a lot to manage. And then you mix in the fact that these parents are paying to play because it is a business, and
Yeah.
everybody does need to play, and sometimes that comes at the expense of winning and teaching certain lessons. So it has a need for it. There's definitely a need for it. I think some programs that I've seen, not Empire that I worked with, but some programs that I've seen, start to lose focus of what's really important and why they're really there in the first place, and they're just trying to make as much money as possible, which power to them. Some programs do generate a good amount of money, but as far as doing right by the kids, I don't. It's a tough place to coach. It's tough. It's definitely tough to coach an AAU team. And I mean, you probably know it too because I know you coached AAU too. Like,
Yeah.
dude, there were seasons I was coaching like 3 teams at a time, and it's like
Yeah.
bro, you're coaching like 16 games in a weekend. You go home and you're dead. Like it's a grind. It really is a grind. But there's a lot of things that they should do to make AAU better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was gonna mention like the European model that you said. Like, I feel like that's a big reason why you see in the NBA, like the international game is kind of taking over like international players. Um, but like you do need game reps because like you need to see things actually in action to like be able to apply it. But at the same time, like when you're practicing for an hour, hour and a half once a week, and then playing 4 games in a weekend, it's like it's hard to coach in that situation because like I could pull a kid over while we're shooting free throws for 10 seconds and try to teach him something on the fly. But the
Right.
chances that he's going to actually be able to apply that to a game are slim to none. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I mean, I think that obviously like the shoe circuits and stuff like that super high level stuff for like recruitment is great. And like the way that we use AAU is like we enter into like small local tournaments and stuff like that around New York just to like be able to play together as a group. Like we're not using it for recruitment or to win games or anything like that. So I think there's value in that. But like you said, some AAU teams that are just in it for profit or just in it for a lot like what you see on Instagram, like some highlight tape of you like making layups and warm ups and layup lines or like winning a t-shirt in a meaningless tournament.
And
I
with the
feel like
headphones
that's
on.
with the headphones on. I feel like that's kind of toxic. But um, so talk a little bit about like your goals or aspirations in coaching. Like, where do you see yourself in the long term, and where do you see yourself in like the next 5 to 10 years in coaching?
Yeah, that's a good question. My ultimate goal is still to coach at the college level. Um, I do think that I'm going to be there at some point soon, but I'm a big believer in, leaving a place better than you found it, and I feel like my work at Harborfields isn't done yet. So I'm very excited for this season too. I think, I think we have a team that has the opportunity to win some games this year. Nothing is ever set in stone and nothing is ever guaranteed, but I think that we definitely have an opportunity to, change the culture of Harborfield's basketball right now, which is something that, I came there to really do because when I was in school, Harborfields was a powerhouse. Like when I was in eighth grade, I think Harborfields won the state championship for single A in New York State. So we have a history of being really really good. But a change in the culture and a change in the landscape of sports on Long Island and a whole bunch of other factors kind of changed things up where basketball isn't as important I think as it once was. So just trying to bring that back, I'd say that's like short term what I see myself doing. Um, but I want to make that jump to the college level, like you said, as a GA, maybe as an assistant coach at the D3 level. So just somewhere to get my foot in the door and try to prove my worth to a program. I have confidence in myself that I'll be able to to climb the ladder and do all the stuff I need to do to bring success to a program. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think about it a lot. I mean, I was considering doing the GA route out of college. I think the part that really turned me off is I was just done going to school, which,
Yeah.
since then I've learned that you're never really done going to school. So, it's I think that's something that I'm going to take on, pretty soon. Not in the immediate future, but somewhere down the line pretty soon I'm going to be making that jump to the college level.
I think wherever you end up, you'll end up killing it. But
Thank you.
last question I have for you. If you could go back in time and give your younger self advice in terms of basketball, I guess more from like a coaching perspective. Obviously, you're still a super young coach, but if you could, I'm sure you've learned a lot in the last few years of being a varsity head coach. So if you can go back and give your younger self advice, what would it be?
I would definitely tell myself to just love the process. I think that's something that I've started to do a little bit more of recently is, even when times are tough and things, nothing is going your way, if you fall in love with the process, the results will follow. If and I think that goes with anything in life, whether it's, school, coaching, working out, if you fall in love with the process of trying to get better and trying to do the right thing, I think everything in the world happens for a reason, and nothing good just happens like randomly. Like there's a reason why good things happen to people. It's because they put in the work and they do the right thing, and they're committed to, getting better. And yeah, I think being a young coach, I mean, I was a varsity coach at like 24, and like, my first season didn't, I expected to come in and, everything would be beautiful, and you win every single game, and you're doing the right things, you teach them how to play defense, you got good X's and O's, and then you start to learn how you actually coach basketball. And, I would just go back and, tell myself everything happens for a reason. Just trust the process, fall in love with the process, and you keep doing the right thing. After a while, you're gonna be in a good place.
All right. Thanks so much for your time, Joe. I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Hey, I appreciate